right, guys, welcome to another episode of Marketing Hot Takes, the show where we skip the fluff and get straight to what's actually working right now in marketing and business growth. I'm Rodney Lamar, your host, and today my guest is Melanie Whitaker, a marketing and public relations strategist who helps female coaches and service providers weave their stories into marketing so that they can get seen, get featured, and grow their communities. Whenever female founders want more visibility, more connection, and real traction, Melanie is the one they hire. So Melanie, it's really, really good to have you here with us.
Oh, thanks for having me, Rodney. It's great to be here.
Awesome. So Melanie, tell me, what's your hot take?
My hot take is I'm going to let people know how they can make their marketing more simple and things that they should look out for doing next year. So let's just, cut to the chase. We've seen it over and over and over again. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. We see people turning up in the online space with the perfect life, the perfect house, the perfect car, the holidays, the fashion. And as much as I want people to be successful, when you genuinely care about people and you're dedicated to the cause of what you do as a business, but your natural byproduct is you're going to be successful. But if you're going to lead with that, especially in the times that we're living in right now, I view that as really highly insensitive. And if in all honesty, you should go and work in finance, in my opinion. So what people need to do when it comes to marketing is lead with their story.
Hey guys, I wanted to pause real quick and take a moment to thank our sponsor, All Booked Up. For your marketing agencies out there, most of you are losing clients between 6 and 12 months into the relationship, and it's rarely because of a lack of leads. Many times it's because your clients don't have an effective system in place to call those leads quickly and book those appointments onto their schedule. And that's where All Booked Up comes in. All Booked Up is a white label appointment setting service agencies can add to their offer. ABU takes the leads that your agency generates for your clients and turns them into real, qualified and confirmed appointments and books them directly onto their calendar. If you want to increase client satisfaction, lower churn, and boost your revenue, visit abufораgencies.com. Back to the conversation.
Because we've all got one. And it's interesting because when clients sit down and talk with me and we chew the fat, at first they're like, but who's going to want to know about my life? Because they just feel like they're not the online standard stereotype. And I'm like, if you try and put yourself in a box and try and be perfect, it's not real life, because everyone's had something happen to them. No one's had the perfect life without a problem in it. That's insane. And to even say that that's gone on for you it's just trying to get people as customers, and everyone can smell through that. They can smell the BS. So what you need to do is be true to you. It is not shameful to say about things that you've experienced in your life that weren't particularly great, because everything's a learning curve. Everything is an experience, good or bad. It's there to teach us a lesson. And especially if you're a coach, then you have got things about you in your skill set and your gifts which should be enhancing and helping people's lives. So don't you think that if someone is struggling with something and all you're doing is talking about perfection, you're actually going to repel people? Because if someone's life feels like a car crash, yes, they can look at you and go, wow, I aspire to be like that. But they're probably not going to reach out to you because they don't feel anywhere near up to that. But when you meet people where they're at and talk about things that have happened in your life and how you got through it and how you overcame it, people will pay attention to that.
Sure. I think there is a lot of pressure now to be perfect, with social media, especially. Everything is filtered. It was already filtered. We were already getting the highlights of people's life, but now everybody looks perfect. Everything is perfect. And people are projecting that lifestyle for a long time. But I think that's where this disconnect came from, where people don't feel connected with their audience. So can you give me an example of how a client of yours changed their messaging, changed their content, and stopped trying to present perfection?
Yeah, it was actually the first client that I ever got, actually. And I've had her on and off for like 4 years. And she's been through it. She's killing it as a business owner. She's very successful. But she went through something in her life which was terrible. You know, what her partner died. And she then carried on, obviously, with her business. But she wasn't afraid to talk about it. And this was all going on around COVID time as well. So there's that on top of it. But she is completely true to herself. So when I was finding PR for her, she was more than happy to bring this into whether it be a podcast episode or write about it in an article, because it's part of her. And the thing about that is, she was willing to talk about it, but she was coming at it from someone who isn't playing the victim. There's one thing to talk about what went wrong, but stay in victim mode. But there's a better way of going about it when you can say, hey, this was a really horrible time in my life, but this was how I turned it around, and you can too. And when you start coming at it from that angle, not only sharing your story, but talking to people so that you understand them. Doesn't mean necessarily that someone's been through the same things as you, but they will see something in you that they respect and be like, wow, I'm glad she told me that, or I'm glad that he mentioned that. Yeah. You never know how it could resonate with someone.
Yeah, I have to concur on that one. Like I wholeheartedly believe that. Recently I started a car project, and I've been looking at YouTubers online, and some of my favorite ones have like these really awesome builds. They build like really elaborate and expensive vehicles, and those are cool to look at. It's kind of aspirational, but that's not realistic, and that's not my reality. And so recently I've started gravitating towards more, content creators who are in the same position as I am. They work a 9 to 5, or they're entrepreneurs, and they're just, this is a hobby of theirs. This is not their life. This is not, grand and elaborate. And it just shows me that I can do it. And that has pushed me to take that first step in my first project. And I've always had cars, obviously, but I've never wanted to do it until I started consuming that type of content. So I think one of the biggest things that scares people away from doing the aspirational content, right, the presenting perfection, is that if they present real life, they feel like they're putting maybe too much out there, right? Too much about what's happening. And what do you feel about that? Like, how do you think people can balance like what they put out? Because PR is about what you project, right? And not putting out too much, like living your whole life. I'm
glad that you've asked that question, because I talk about this every single day with my clients, because the more you're talking about yourself in your PR, let me just get to the point here. I always say to my clients, you're going to hit some wobbles in your PR journey because you're giving of yourself. There's nowhere to hide with PR. Behind a social media post, you just hit send, get on with your day, no drama. You can respond to someone maybe if they're in a bad light and maybe saying something mean, or you can just ignore it. So you're still hiding. Same with an email, you can still hide behind that. So the more that you give of yourself, there's a double-edged sword with it. It feels liberating and it feels great. And I don't mean from an egotistical point of view. I mean, you feel great that you're able to talk about yourself in a way that feels good to you, but you know that other people will gain benefit from it. Then there's the flip side of it, where some things can be a bit of a wobble and you're like, whoa, didn't expect this to come up. Or maybe you've put some things to bed over the years and someone asks you a question in an interview and you're like, whoa, and now all of a sudden it's staring you in the face again and you're like, whoa, what do I do with this? And so I'm always there for my clients when those situations arise. That said, I always say this to my clients because they can reach a point where they're like, how much do I really give away? And I always say to them, you have the power with your PR on what you're going to give away. So for instance, when someone starts working with me, the first thing I ask is there anything about your life that is a no-no that you will never, ever discuss? That's their opportunity to tell me. And then when I'm going off and getting PR, I will always say to the podcast host, or maybe it's a magazine, whatever the thing is, please do not mention XYZ because they don't want to talk about it. So you are in control of it. But also, you get to say, it's like when you're on social media, you can actually train the algorithm in a way. You can say what you want in your feed, you can unfollow, you can block, right? And so it's the same with PR. You are more powerful than you realize. Because once you say, okay, I'm now going to share my story so that other people relate. I have so many brainstorming sessions with my clients and we chew the fat over a call and they're like, what do you think to this? And what do you think to that? And what I always say to them is this: your energy has to be behind it. And let me give you an example. So sometimes a client will say to me, what do you think about me mentioning this? I will never answer yes or no. And the reason that I don't answer it is we're both grown-ass adults and it's down to them what they're going to do. But helping them make the decision, I always say this: if you decide to talk about that topic, have you got the emotional resilience to deal with it, whatever the outcome is?
Sure.
Well, no. Before I say that, there's another question before I say that. Before I ask that, I say to them, is it your truth? And they're kind of taken aback because they've never really had anyone ask that question before. And they're like, of course it's my truth. You know, I've lived it. Da, da, da. And then I'm like, okay, so it's your truth. No one can take that away from you, right? But now I want you to ask yourself, if you share this and divulge it, have you got the emotional resilience to deal with it? Because none of us know how that's going to be perceived. It could be perceived good, it could be perceived bad. Could you emotionally handle whatever the outcome is? And the reason I ask that question is I say, the more you're doing your PR, you get really excited about it and you can't wait to tell people, but you have to realize you're in control. And you might want to talk about it now, but emotionally, if you're not ready for it, don't do it. That's not to say you'll never do it, but if you're emotionally not ready, then don't do it. It doesn't have to be discussed here and now. It could be discussed 6 weeks from now, 6 months from now, a year from now. And instead of putting all the pressure on, like, I've got to tell them this, breathe. Breathe. And then you can look at things and think, no, I'm not going to talk about that. The time doesn't feel right. And you get to say what you're going to talk about. And so you do have the power in what you're going to divulge.
Yeah, I think people don't realize actually how much power they have. But for those, Melanie, who are seeking to get in contact with you to talk about this topic a little bit more in depth, how can they find you?
They can find me on my website, which is youareyourmarketing.com. They can find me on Instagram on the same handle, You Are Your Marketing, same on Threads. And they can find me on Facebook, which is the name Melanie Whitaker, and I've got pink hair. And they can find me on LinkedIn with the name Melanie Whitaker and the pink hair. So yeah, that's where I live.
Awesome. Melanie, it has been a pleasure having you on the show today.
Thank you.
Okay, guys, so if you enjoyed this episode, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel and follow us if you never want to miss another episode again or great conversation. Until next time, keep your marketing hot and your pipeline hotter.